how a high-value lady navigates long-distance relationships. Do they even work? Hi, I'm Edwina, and welcome back to Talk It Through Tuesdays. How are you doing? I hope you've had a fantastic week. I'm Edwina, your exclusive dating to marriage coach, and I'm here again with a fantastic video. And today I am talking about long distance relationships. How do we as high value ladies navigate this? Now, does it work? Does it not work? This is the question. That sounds like one of those Shakespeare things, right? But some of them work and some of them don't work. And this is something that I wanted to discuss today because I had a discovery call with a lady who was asking me about this. I've experienced it, and also some of you might be experiencing it also. But don't forget to subscribe, ladies. Subscribe. I can't even say that word. Subscribe. Don't forget to like the video, and don't forget to always be here on a Tuesday and Monday to Friday, whatever video takes your fancy. But as I'm here today, I had a discovery call with this lady, and she was asking me about how do we navigate the distance and trying to understand about this man and how different it is for being in a relationship with a man who is close to home and someone who lives further away. So I wanted to talk about this word called distance. And distance is the length of space between a thing or a place. And for some of us, we have different tolerance levels. For some of you, you can have a relationship with a man who's in a different state as you, maybe a couple hours drive. Some of you can have a relationship with somebody who lives miles away, where you have to jump on a plane and have a relationship with them. Some of you can have a relationship with somebody who's only 30 minutes away from them. Distance is quite relative, and you first and foremost need to know how far you are willing to date somebody and how much effort you're willing to put in it. So that's the first thing I wanted to discuss. What is your tolerance level for distance? What is your tolerance level for distance? Because we all know that relationships take a lot of work. Some of you need to have the energy of the person. You need to be able to constantly see the person. Some of you are fine with phones and technologies, but I wanted to run through a few points that will help you navigate long distance relationships if you are in one. So, Number one, I've said this before in many of my other videos, but communication. Communication needs to even be 100% or even 110% when you're in a long distance relationship with somebody. Why? You don't see them every day. You can't go and knock on their door and go, honey, you haven't called me in a few days. Are you okay? It's the lifeblood of any relationship, but especially if you're in long distance relationships, you're going to have to be reading their energy. You're going to have to be either on Skype calls, if you still use Skype, Zoom calls, you're going to be FaceTiming, you're going to be WhatsApping, you're going to be video calling, you're going to be finding as many different modes of contacts besides phone calls to speak to this person, to get to know them. And if you're not telling them certain things at the beginning, if you're not asking them certain questions at the beginning, or if this person cannot communicate, this long distance relationship is going to fizzle out. So if you're going to have a long distance relationship, you need to make sure that the person you're with understands the importance of communication, and they communicate 100% or 110%. We all know about the dating apps, how hard they can be. Let alone you coming off the dating app, you have found the one. He lives far away and he doesn't want to communicate. Put your foot down, boo. You need to tell him he needs to up his communication levels if this relationship is going to be working. Because if you're not talking, if you're not seeing, if you're not even having video calls, how are you going to get to know your person? My person that I was speaking to, they lived in different states where they have to take a plane to go and see each other. And just understanding the pattern of how they communicate was tough, let alone having these conversations and her trying to find out all this information from him. She started to get frustrated, and she had to say, I don't like how this relationship is going, because number one, you're not being as open with me as I am. And number two, I still don't know you. If I still don't know you from having these conversations and I'm pouring out my heart, you decide not to pour out your heart, why am I going to take a plane to go and see you? Or why would I even allow you in my space? So communication needs to be open. It needs to be transparent. It needs to be consistent on both sides. But these are some of the points I will go into. So let me go. Another thing about communication, it helps you with your vetting. I have done a video about how to vet, how a high value lady vets a man. So please watch that video. The more you communicate, the more you're vetting this man. The other thing about this communication that you have to be careful about is the more you communicate with a man, the more easier it is for you to fall for this man. So you have to make sure that your heart is locked. And I don't mean that in that way, but I want you to have your head screwed on. I don't want you to be falling in love with this man who's millions of miles away and you don't know how this relationship is going to go, etc. I just want you to keep your heart under lock and key, but keep your head screwed on with your questions that you're asking, and you're consistently making sure that you don't fall head over heels for him very, very quickly when you don't know where the relationship is going. So this is a good point about the communication. It helps you to vet, but a disadvantage is that you could fall for him quicker than normal. And the thing with long distance relationships, research has found that long distance relationships means because you can't see each other all the time, you are more likely to get to know them more. So by the time you do meet them, it's like, we've always known each other. So I just wanted to understand this thing about communication. Not only is a lifeblood for every relationship, but especially if you're in a long distance relationship, it is the key one. They say it's good to talk, so make sure you are talking about everything and anything. Do not let any conversation be pushed under the carpet, because this is your moment and your opportunity to find out if this man is for you. So, number 2, once you're exclusive, once you're communicated, once you know that there has a potential of this going somewhere, make time to be in his space, in his world. There is nothing as important as you being in his environment. Obviously, by this time, you are probably exclusive. You're probably courting by this time, okay? So if this is the first date and you're going to see the man, I don't think this will work, okay? As you're in his space, you'll be able to feel his energy. You'll be able to feel if another woman is in that territory, because women, we have a way of leaving traces of who we are. It's either our hair, our earrings, makeup, underwear, etc., etc. You know what I mean? So once you're in the space of a man, you're in his domain, you get to feel the energy, you get to see and feel and understand if another woman is there, another woman has been there, and actually if he is really single. So all the things you've communicated about, you now get to see for true. You get to see in reality if he's actually telling you the truth. And there's nothing more than being in his space. There's nothing more than being in front of him and reading his energy, that everything that he said, all those promises and all those things he spoke to you, are they genuine? Women, we have a gut instinct that we just know when something is off. We can't put our foot on it, but we know when something is off. We know when something feels right. So when you're exclusive, when he has said you are the one for me, let's work towards marriage, we're courting, etc., find a way, a time to be in his space. I don't mean go and stay at his place. If you want to do that, up to you. You can make sure it's a hotel or something where you can visit him at his place, etc. But that you need to be in his environment. You need to make sure you suss the land. Make sure that territory has enough space for you to be in. You don't want to be having an environment where you got to fight for your space. You don't deserve that. You need to have a space that is free entry for you and your man to have a relationship with. Okay, so make sure you find a way to be in his space. You can also, at this time, practice being in your feminine. You're leaning back, allowing him to lead, allowing him to be himself, being your playful nature, being the woman that he's fallen in love with over the phone. And you also get to see how the energy is and the attraction is and the chemistry is face to face. So make a date, a time to make sure that you travel to go and see him in his environment, in his domain. And that leads me to point number 3. Point number 3, speak openly and with intention. You must understand that every time you are on the phone, luckily we don't have to pay, for these expensive long distance phone calls. Just remember back in the day when you had to go to the phone box or you had to get a calling card. Every moment counts. I want you to still have that intention that every time that you take having a conversation with this man long distance, it is costing you. Okay, you're making an investment with your time. So speak openly. If you want to have children, if you don't want to mess around, there has to be an intention for every call. What are you going to find out about this man in this call? For me, my partner, he loves video calls, and I did not like it because I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta do my hair, my makeup, my nails have got to be done. And he was the first man that just allowed me to be seen without makeup, with makeup, with my hair looking good, my hair not looking good. And already that made me feel that already he was something special. He loved me with my flaws, without the makeup. He loved me looking glam like this. So some of these things will touch your heart because you get to see who that man really is in his heart. But intention is very key. Many of us are having these long distance relationships and we don't have an intention. We don't have a reason why we're having this phone call. We're not having a goal for the conversation and the information that we want to get. As I said, speak intentionally. What do you want to find out? What is the question that's on your heart that you need to find? Do you need to have more video calls where you're seeing him around the house? And is there any thing that's niggling at you? These are where you can start speaking about your core needs, your non-negotiables, etc. The thing with intention is it causes us to not waste time. Remember, I've spoken about communication. I've spoken about being in his space. If you don't have an intention for this relationship or even the type of person you want to have in your life, and this is long distance, you'll be wasting your time. If you are a lady and you want to have fun, what are you doing having a long distance relationship? This will be the most frustrating relationship ever. This is why I mean you should be having an intention. If you want long distance and you want marriage, he needs to know. If you want long distance and you want marriage within a year or 2, he needs to know. These are future plans and goals and things that should be discussed, because the essence of these relationships puts an intentionality, is that such a word? And it puts a seriousness on the relationship. You don't want to be hooked up with somebody who tells you after talking for a year that he's been satisfying his emotional ego with you, that he's not ready to settle down. It's worse with somebody down the road, let alone 10 times worse with somebody who's a long distance. And I'll give you a situation. There was an amazing American guy that I liked. We were talking on and off for quite some time. He liked me, I liked him. He had his American twang. Yo baby, what's up? How you doing, shorty? I was like, Every time he spoke, and it was like, oh, your English accent just does something for me, etc., etc., etc. Until I started saying, you like me, I like you. And he said, you look and seem like the woman I can settle down with. So we started talking about conversations. The thing was, he could not leave his state through one reason or another. So I had to consider going to see him. And when I had to do that, the seriousness of this relationship actually made me start thinking, do I really want to go abroad? Is it safe? What has this man shown me? He's just given me sweet words and nothing. Has he told me he's going to contribute to the plane ticket, or is he going to sort out my accommodation? All these things. So I started bringing these up. Stories started coming. Oh, I don't have any money, but you can stay at my place. Flags, red flags. But you know, okay, if you don't want to stay, I can find an accommodation for you. And my spirit was not taken to some of these questions. Notice I was getting my intentionality much more clearer with him. Cut a long story short, I had a gut instinct that I should not go, because I always believed the man should come over to see the woman first and foremost. But you know, us women, we're so forward these days that we would actually go over to see him. And as I did say before, you have to make room to see him in his own space. Did you know this man was having a relationship with somebody else? And when I finally confronted him, because I said, something's happening with our communication, something's off, is everything okay? And he confided to say, you're taking too long to come over, I've got myself involved with another lady, etc., etc. What am I saying, ladies? When it came to the seriousness of this, and I started asking him the reality.com, this is no longer fantasy, this is reality of how to make a relationship work. He had somebody. And ladies, we do not have any time to be second best to any man. Despite he was fine, despite he blew my mind with his accent and everything, he was not the one for me. And this is why the intention. This is why having intention with these conversations and making fantasy be reality is key. For some people, they would have been like, oh my gosh, broken. The man he didn't make a commitment to me. We were on the verge of making a commitment to me, but he did not have time to wait for me. And that crushed me. And I don't know, ladies, if you've been through anything like that. If that's the case, you know, leave a comment, let's discuss it, because these are some of the things we need to discuss. But I said I didn't really want a relationship that was involved a plane, going to see somebody with that long distance. I want to be able to get an Uber. I want to be able to get a coach at least 2, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, at least the same day, within 24 hours, etc. But I don't want to have a plane journey. So this is why I'm talking about us having an intention. We need to make sure that the fantasy of talking online, on video calls with this person, becomes a reality. And when we start drawing the line for that, we start finding out if this is really worth it or if it's not. So I'm going to move to the next point. Number 4 is consistency. I don't even need to take too long on this one, but ladies, you know, when a man is consistent and is pursuing you, you know his interest level. This needs to be so high when it comes to the communication, when it comes to him finding ways to make himself a part of your world. With, if he calls you at 7 a.m. every morning and he consistently does that, it builds something in you to go, this man actually likes me. He's making me feel secure in the relationship. You know, if there's a conversation that you're having at certain times of the day where you're consistent in such a way that you start to find out his routine. He'll call you on the way back from work, or you're going shopping, you decide to call him. You know, those things you sort to do randomly and just without thinking in a relationship. This starts to happen in the long distance relationship. So it makes the relationship more secure, more close to home. With consistency, it makes sure that those dark points, those unseen points, those points where you haven't heard from them, the gaps become smaller and the love, the bond becomes stronger. So please emphasize to the person about consistency of calls, video calls, how often you want to make sure you have that determined by both of you. It should be effortless. And also, I can't hit home again, consistency. Just make sure it's regular, because it's along with communication, it's the lifeblood of your relationship and it bonds you two together. Let me move on to number 5. Number 5, put a time limit on it. Not only are you building consistency, You're building bridges, you're building connections, you are building a pattern of the life of this person and who you're going to spend your life with. You are putting a time limit on it. I don't know about you, but in the previous relationship that I said with the American guy, we were talking for about a year, and then I said, we need to meet. Some of you might be 6 months, some of you might be 3 months, some of you might be 2 years, depending how far you live, etc. You need to put a time limit. And then after that time limit, you cut it off. We do not have time to be having a long distance relationship for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, etc. The more you are firm with that and ruthless with that, you will see things happen quicker. The reason why you have a time limit for it is just like any goal that you have. I'm not saying that we drive the relationship, but in your head, in your communications, you would know that this guy is the one for me. This guy wants to marry me. You would be making things be put in place whereby you are getting ready to pack up and leave to go to his country, or you're going to be leaving to go to a state together, or you're going to be buying a house together, or you're going to be getting married, etc. There has to be some time process of, by this time, engagement. By this time, your family and my family are meeting. By this time, I'm coming to where you live. By this time, you're coming to where I live. By this time, we're looking at houses. By this time, what that does, it makes the flow of the relationship more realistic. I had a story of somebody who, they were dating, I think, for 2 years, and they wanted to marry, met family, etc. And the woman packed up everything from her home, where she was living, to live where he was, and they're living happily ever after. It happens. For another point, it could be the man may have more opportunities in the state that you're living, and he decides to come to live where you are. This is something that you will all discuss. But remember, he's a masculine man, so he has to drive the relationship. But you have some sort of time limit in your head that you've given, or that you both have a certainty to, because some of these relationships can drag. And as I said, the one that I discussed didn't have a happy ending. The one that I'm in now, it was long distance, but it wasn't long distance where he was a plane ride away. He was a train ride away, 2 hours away. But we couldn't really see each other all the time, so there was a lot of video calls, and by the time we had video calls, and it was every day, and he was asking her, what you cooking, what you eating, what you doing, how's work, call me on the lunch break. That became a regular pattern that it still happens right now. And once that pattern was built, it just built an assurance for both of us. And by the time we met each other, it was like, we know each other from years and years and years. And building a family and everything has become easier in that manner. So I just wanted to say, in that regards, make sure it leads to this final bonus point. Will they be there for you? When I tell you that this one is so important, it doesn't matter how far a person is. When they want to be there for you, they will be there for you. Whether it's, obviously they can't be there if you have a leak in your house and, they can help you with the flood or something, or your car breaking down, etc., etc. But when it comes to your emotional needs, will they be there? When you're feeling vulnerable, insecure, will they be there? Will they be there to boost you up when you're going for that job interview? Will they be there? That's, I think it was Michael Jackson. I'll be there. Will they be there for you? In this long distance relationship, you want somebody who is going to be there for you a lifetime. This is something that you'll be doing as you're vetting, as you're communicating, as you're in his space, as you're checking out how consistent he is. Remember I said, do long distance relationships work? Yes, they do, if all of these things are in there. And if you have any other points, please add them in the comments to find out, how did your long distance relationship thrive? How did it survive? How is it growing? If you were in a long distance relationship and it didn't really work, tell us, let us learn from it. Because many of us are on dating apps and we're meeting men in different states, different countries, and different spaces from us. And we want it to work if both of us are committed. So if you're with a man and you're both committed to making it work, I hope that this video has helped you. And if you didn't have a relationship that was long distance, please don't let it deter you. As I said, I met somebody who was in America and it didn't work, but I met somebody who was in a different state to me and it did work, and we're still enjoying the benefits and the fruits of it. So we went through these points, and we're still going through these points as we grow in our relationship and building a family. So I just wanted to say, may your long distance relationship work out for you with these points. And if you have anything else to share, please pop a comment in the comment section and share with us. So thank you for joining. Let's talk it through Tuesdays.